So welcome to our final intermediate block for 2024. You need to bring in November's finished block by December 31st and receive this December block for free. You can begin picking up your December block this Friday, December 13th at 10 a.m. Registration is open for the Saturday Samplers for 2025. Your $25 registration fee does include the January's kit. We're having a huge 20% off sale right now until December 31st. Stop in and see what we have. Also, we have 50% off select Finish the Bolts for you to take a look at. Also, many classes are forming for the new year, so come in, see the samples, sign up, and pick up your supplies. Our Black Friday machine sales are continuing through until the new year. So again, stop in and see what we have to offer for sewing machines, embroidery machines, and sergers. And lastly, our Aero chairs are on a super sale at $288 a piece. And I have one right here, but there are many to choose from in our store. So let's take a look at December's block. We're using 3 different rulers, and we can go over those real quick. I think we've done a lot of these throughout the year, so this will just be a little bit of a refresher. It's basically a 9-patch with cat's cradles, quarter square triangles, and a square and a square. We're going to be using the Creative Grids 90-degree angle ruler for our quarter square triangles, the cat's cradle tool for our 2-inch finished units, and the square on square 8-inch trim tool for a 4-inch finished center. Okay, easy. The cutting for December's block, we're going to start with the dark red. Gets a 4-inch strip, and it's going to be cut into 4 3-inch rectangles, and then at the end you're going to be cutting out 2 squares at 3.5. The coral, or the orange as most people call it, you're going to cut 2 3-inch squares, and from the remainder you're going to cut strips that are 1 3/4, and then subcut those at 2 3/4 rectangle. Okay. The multi-black circle, easy enough. The 2.5 is the center of our square on square. It's a 2.5 square. Then you need 8 1 3/4 inch squares for the cat's cradle, and then the pink and the white, 2 strips, 1 pink, 1 white, 2.5 by the length of your kit fabric, and that is cut at 2.5 inches wide. And the yellow, just 8 2.5-inch squares. So these are the 3 units that we're going to be making: 4 of these, 4 of these, and just 1 of our center. So to start with our 90-degree, what's it called? 90-degree quarter square triangle. The easy part on this is your strip is cut a 1/2 inch bigger than half the size of the finished unit. So if the finished unit is going to be a finished 4-inch quarter square triangle, half of this is a 2-inch, so you just add the 1/2 inch. So depending on whatever size your finished unit is, you're going to take that half and add the 1/2 inch for the strip. So my strips are cut at 2.5, and they're very easy to either use the companion angle at this point, or I like the Creative Grid because it does have the grippers on the edges and down the middle. And you just lay the little blunt side at the top of your strip, and you're going to find the 2.5 inch solid black line. So here's the 1, the 2, and then the 2.5. So we're just going to line this 2.5 inch up with the top of our bottom of our strip and the blunt at the top, and we're just going to cut 8 of these units. Okay, just like that. You can throw that away. We have one, and we're just going to continue to cut 8 of these all the way across. All right, so I've done that here, and when you go to sew those, to make sure that you get these units, I like to put the pink side up, and then I'll chain piece from the 90-degree right down to the point, and again and again. It makes it very, very simple to keep them straight. Because if I did this side, then I would have opposite, and that would not work. All right, so once you have your pieces sewn at the 90-degree angle, you're going to press them toward the pink. Then you're going to lock your seams, and you're going to sew your quarter square units together. Okay, and again, once you get this part done, just go ahead and press your seam to either side, which I did here. Okay, so you're going to make 4 of these units and put those aside. We've done quarter square triangles in the past, so I'm not going to put too much time into that one. The next thing I'd like to show you is the cat's cradle. We have not done that this year, so this will be a little bit of a refresher for you. The cat's cradle ruler, it's kind of hard to see. Can you see it? Yes, no?
You're getting a reflection.
Okay, better? All right, so we have any finished block sizes from 1.5 down to 4. Our finished block is a 2. So our little handy charts tell us how many to cut and what sizes to cut, which I've given you. There's also an area where we're going to place that on the seam line, mark our line, trim our line, and then trim our cat's cradle. So easy enough. We're going to start with our coral, 1 3/4 by 2 3/4, and our black multi-circle fabric. And we're just going to go ahead and sew those on the ends of each. You should have 8 on the ends of each of our rectangles. So all these squares are going to go on the ends of our rectangles. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. And we'll put this together. Okay, so you're going to do all 8 of these, and we're going to press these toward the rectangle in order to get the square to stay as a square. Basically, we don't want to hide it. All right, so we're going to go ahead and press these toward the rectangle, and then we're going to sew our 2 units together. All right, so we're going to sew our 2 units with opposite squares on either side, just like that. So I'm going to put this together and sew down the edge. Of course, you're going to have more of these than just the one. Should be the same size. Nice 1/4 inch seam allowance. And then the next thing we're going to do is we have to make sure when we press this open that we have our square showing again. So this one's going in this direction, and this one's going to get pressed in this direction. So we want to make sure that we nip or just a little cut in the seam allowance right between those 2 pieces. So I'm just going to take my scissors. I'm going to go over about 1/4 inch from that one and make a small slit in the seam allowance. So now when I press, I'll be able to press both of these in the directions that they need to be. So let's go ahead and press that. All right. Then we're going to get our ruler and we're going to look for the part on the ruler that says mark the sewing line, which is right here. Place on the seam line, mark your sewing line. And it has the grippers under it, so it works out really, really well that it's going to hold it in place. So this black line comes right out to the edge of your ruler, which is perfect. And it's going to go right on the seam of the square. So I'm just going to turn this and place that right on the square. So on this side you can see the threads going this way and this way. It's the same on this. The intersection should be close to the corner, and it should be right on the nip, right on the edge of our two intersecting lines. I'm going to go ahead and take our friction pen and mark the sewing lines straight across. All right, and we're going to do it again to the other side. So I'm just going to flip this around, look for my two sewn or seam lines, place that black line on the seam line, and we're going to mark our sewing line. Again, comes right out to the corner. It intersects right at the point, so that's where we're going to sew. So we're not going to cut off our point on that square at all. Okay. Next thing we want to do is we're going to take our 3x4 dark red, and we're going to place them right sides together, and those are our sewing lines. So we're going to sew right on our marked friction pen line. Again, you'll have more than just the one piece. All right, I did this one. Now I'm going to do the second one. And this is going to create two units, two cat's cradle units, sewing right on that line. Okay. And then we'll go back to our ruler and we're going to trim. So you can use either of these sides that are marked 1/4 inch seam allowance. You have this one. It says 1/4 inch on this side, and it also says 1/4 inch on this side. So, and again, it has the grippers. The Creative Grids have the grippers underneath to hold your ruler in place. The black line that you see here is going to go on your sewn line, and we're going to trim it at 1/4 inch. So we're going to place our unit with that sewn line on the black line, and we're just going to trim it to 1/4 inch. So here's my seam allowance. All right, we'll do it again. Find the 1/4 inch seam allowance on the ruler, place the black line on my sewn line, and we're going to trim that down. You don't have a lot, but you do have a little bit. All right, next thing we're going to do with these units is we're going to press them toward the large triangle. All right, so let's go do that. A little heat. And I'll open that right up, give that some heat. And then we're just going to trim these down to our finished 2-inch squares. They will be 2.5, but the finished square of 2 inch. So this is the next section of this ruler we're going to look for. It's trim to size. And I like to place the black line that says 2 inches in my square. So on the corner of this ruler, you see 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, 3.5, and 4. We are working with the 2 inch because it's the 2 inch finished. So this black line and this black line are going to go right on my seams of the black multi-circle. So let's turn that and find that. Okay, so my 2-inch, whoops, next one down, sorry. I almost did 2.5. The 2-inch and the dotted line that goes across is on my seam, and the black lines are right in my square. So I'm going to go ahead and trim this to size, and then I'm just going to rotate it, and this time the 2-inch just kisses the other square that I just trimmed, and the diagonal dashed line is once again going across my square. You'll also notice that there's one more dashed line that goes through the center of my diagonal of my ruler. That comes right out at the point of the corner that I just trimmed. So I know this is all squared up by the 2-inch intersection right at the point of my last trimmed square. All right, so then we'll go ahead and trim this. You'll notice that the points come right out at the corners, just the way they should, and we have our 2.5-inch or 2-inch finished cat's cradle. The next thing we have to do is put on our yellow, let me grab one. This is kind of depending on how you want it to go. We're going to create a 4-patch out of those cat's cradles and the 2.5-inch yellows. So this one's going to be sewn like this, and the other one is going to be sewn like that. All right. That ensures that all the reds go toward the sides and the oranges come up the middle, just like the sample. All right, and then the very, very last thing, which is another quick square and a square, we're going to start with our 2.5-inch black multi-black square. We're going to use, oh, I've lost it. We're going to use our coral, and we're going to find the center. Now, sometimes you can fold this, give it a little pinch, find the center there, the little teepee comes up, find the center here, this one gets folded this way, and you can just match those right on top of each other. All right, so let's go ahead and sew these. We're going to do the same thing for the other side. We're going to continue all the way around until we get these 2 units. All right. This one, there's only 1 unit, sorry, just the 1 unit. All 4 sides, 2, 2, and 2. Go ahead and press these toward the triangle. We're going to add the next one, and we're just going to trim it using our square on square 8-inch tool. So I'm just going to eyeball this, find the center, go ahead and sew that one more time. And one other side. Let's get this out of the way real quick. And then this one. It's nice, we're going to be trimming this, so I'm not being super uber careful, but just center it best you can. Okay. We're going to press it, and we're going to trim it using our tool. Let me press real quick. All right, So on the ruler, you have the options of doing a 4-inch finished square on square or an 8-inch finished square on square. The block A1 and block A2 are going to be the 4-inch, and if we continue to do the B1 and B2, it would be the 8-inch. So we're just considering the A1 and A2 at this time because that's what we need is a 4-inch. So I'm going to take my center square, place it in the block A1 all the way around. Make sure it's in there, and I can go ahead and trim these two sides. It's that easy. So it's kind of oversized what we're doing, but it really does ensure that we get a very precise square on square. So again, making sure my block sits right, my center sits right in there. And this has built-in seam allowances, and of course the grippers going around the edges of our ruler. Same thing, we're just going to take our red, do opposite sides, press them open, other side, press them open, and this time we're going to use the A2 section. Do I have one done? Yes, I have one done. Oh, okay. So I've already trimmed this one, but as you can see, the A2 section fits right around that coral square, and I'm now trimming the excess dark red. Same thing. Flip it around, put the block A2 around the coral, and again, trim each side of the dark red. Again, you only need one of these blocks, and it comes out to be a 4.5 inch or a 4-inch finished block. Okay, so with all those, you're able to make your 9 patch. This block is turned however you like. I have it with the red, dark reds going out to the points. Just kind of twist them as you form your rows and your columns. And then I have the white in the insides on each one. Again, just turn it the way you want. Maybe you want the pink on the inside. It's totally up to you. So when you create each of these 4, 1 and 4 of these, you'll have 9 for a 9 patch. A simple way to end December. I hope you enjoyed this year. I think you're really going to enjoy next year's colors. Please come in, register your $25, and wait until the video comes out in January to see the colors. Thanks for watching.